Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Find and Follow podcast, where we are all about helping you find and follow Jesus in your everyday life. Back here another week with another episode with Kyle and Scott, your regular co-hosts. And I guess now semi-regular co-host Jason Thomas is here.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't know.
Semi-regular.
Semi-regular. This is your second
time.
time. You're past the guest stage. I mean, you've been on the team for 4 months, so...
Thank you.
You're a co-host.
A guest co-host.
Awesome.
A guest co-host.
I'm not even sure.
Yeah.
But you're here. It's great.
We're branding that pretty quick. Pretty quick. It's only the second time.
Just move you right up.
All right.
That's kind of confidence we have in you today.
I appreciate
and
it.
the kind of, standards we have for the podcast. It's like
It's very high.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what you're trying to say.
That's
So
what I was
high.
saying.
Absolutely.
That, not the other
Come on
way
now.
around.
You got to speak some life here. We're not just winging it.
Whoa, no, never.
No. We're professional communicators. That's what we do.
It's true.
So we've been at this for quite a while. I mean, I've been in front of people speaking for like almost 3 decades.
As
So.
we say, you're old. So.
Yeah.
It's people like, you're so good at it. It's like, I've been really bad at it for a long time, and you figure out how to get a little bit better.
Yeah.
A lot of reps.
Yeah.
A lot of reps.
Yeah.
And it's still at times you go, I have no idea.
Yeah.
What am I
100%.
even doing?
Hey,
Yeah.
LeBron doesn't score, 60 points every game, 50 points,
Right.
40 points. He has some off nights.
Yes.
Right?
Do you ever have times when you're talking and all of a sudden you're like, I don't even know what I'm saying right now?
100%.
Like, where am I going
The
with this?
majority of the time. Over under on that is like percentile. Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
I have conversations in my head with myself, and then I'm like, wait, what? Who am I talking? Am I talking to you? Me? Okay.
Right.
Get the train back
Yeah.
on the track.
What have I
here.
said out loud at this point?
Here's a creepy, weird one. You ready? Well, you actually rolled through for it, too. You were there. When we had some technical difficulties a few weeks ago, we went live during the week, not only to help get content out, but also just to test and make sure our live stream technology worked to YouTube and Facebook. And so it's live. Obviously, you can't just like stop and go, hey, let me try that again. Let's back it up like we do with other videos. So,
But not the podcast. We're all
not the
good here.
podcast. We really don't. We just roll with it. But I got about, halfway through, and I was stumbling, and I almost stopped. And I had a conversation with Kyle in my head, and Kyle had a conversation with me in his head through the moment while I was talking. We conferred afterwards. We had the same conversation in our heads with each other in the moment, because I was like,
That's what married couples do.
Yeah, it's like
right?
Holy Spirit telekinesis type stuff.
yeah.
Because I was like, yeah, I felt you. It's like when you, like you say, the marriage eye
Right.
contact thing. Like
You
I
know
see
what
that
that
he's
person's saying.
I know
Yeah.
what he's saying in his head, and I'm saying it right back to him. We're having the same conversation. Then he gets done. He goes, "Yeah, I was gonna stop, but I knew I couldn't. And I knew you were like back there." And I'm like, "Yeah, I felt the exact same thing."
And it was on like the same word. Yeah. It's kind of married couple-esque, but it's also communicator where you just know, you're better off just, you stumbled, keep it going. We're with you. You don't have to apologize or back up. So, anyways,
Scott and I have been work married just as long as my wife and I have. I got married a month before I started working with Scott, so we're right around the same time in relationship. There, it's a little different.
It's a little different.
That's kind of creepy. You've never said it that way before.
Well, I just thought about it. I was like,
never
how long have I been married? How long have Scott and I known each other? Like
the same.
we
month.
knew of each other, and obviously I've known my wife longer than that. But
Amen.
yeah,
And
Yeah, but the amount of hours you spend together, too.
yeah, I know. Isn't it weird?
It is weird.
Super weird.
So I don't know if that's helpful for anybody listening.
Probably
I don't know
not.
where this is going. We can
just-
start over?
Keep moving through life. No, we're in this series. Speaking of Sunday and communicating, we're in this series, God's Bio, and I love clarity in life. I'm drawn to clarity when things get complex and overly wordy and just not sure. Like I love to cut through everything and get to clarity. And so we're looking at if God, kind of this fun take, if God had an Instagram account, like what would he put on the bio? It is kind of interesting if you just go look at your own bio right now or other people's, and sometimes it's helpful and sometimes they're just put out a new album and that's all that is there, which is not a good, helpful description
Most of the time,
them.
yeah. Instagram specifically, a few years ago, they changed it so like the only place you could put a link was in your bio. So now it just changes. I think I still have my WordPress link that goes to my fundraising for the Columbia trip we took.
So if you want to give to...
So if you want to give to
give to
Lindsay and
them.
Kyle's, and you can probably look at our blog about what happened in Columbia.
Oh, there you go.
Yep, KyleandLindsay.wordpress.com. You can give to my Columbia trip circa 2017.
Right. Or the future one, maybe in
Yeah,
2024, 5.
Anyway.
Anyways, trying to cut through, get to
So
some
the
clarity.
bios aren't super helpful.
But-
and I made
Yeah,
the point.
mine's updated.
I made the point
Yours
last
is
week.
updated.
Mine's updated.
Well, you're
yeah.
You're
a
pretty
little
good.
bit more on
Yeah,
top of
I
the
am on
social
there.
media than I am.
Yeah.
I made the point last week. For me as a person, like I struggle to describe myself. Right. I think the bio is this kind of weird concept. Some people love it. It's like, what do I say about who I? How do I, put it all into a few? I don't even know your character limit these days on what you get for your bio, but it's like, what things do you say, and what are the best things to say? And so, the bio things can be helpful, can not be. But yeah, again, playing off this a little bit, like, what would God put in his bio? What would God say if he had to describe himself to us as humans?
Yeah, and the good news is he was very clear, and he said 5 characteristics, which is not comprehensive. I'll just be Captain Obvious on that. But it's a super helpful launching point, and it helps us to point to Jesus and to go, okay, what did Jesus do and say about himself, his characteristics, how that reinforces, because he's God. So, and then you get a more holistic picture of who God is. But he said he was compassionate, he was gracious, he was slow to anger or long in the nose, as we'll get into this next week, unfailing love or a loyal love and faithfulness.
And you make the point there, Scott, that it's not comprehensive, obviously, because God is bigger than distilled into 5 words or 5 attributes or characteristics. But it's obviously important that he said 5, that he said those 5, right? That he could have said 1 or 2 things, or he could have had a list that's chapters and chapters and chapters long. So it's really important. Why did he choose these 5? Why were these the ones that he sets up specifically as it relates to his relationship with people? In this context, his relationship with the covenant people, the Israelites. So again, I totally agree with what you say. Obviously, this isn't everything, but we have to look at the importance of like, okay, well, why did God choose these 5 specific things, and what are these things, and how do they, again, specifically as we relate to God, how do we understand them?
And they're repeated over and over and over through the Hebrew Scriptures and into the New Testament with God himself redescribing himself, doing a callback, like a good comedian joke, or, which its character's not a joke, or other people, prophets and spokesmen and people of the nation of Israel, and people going, hey, this is who you are, God, just a reminder, this is who we are, we're banking on you because you're a loyal God, a faithful God, a kind God, a God of truth, and so it's just repeated over and over and over. So why we're jumping Exodus 34 and this bigger context of God establishing a covenant with the people of Israel, who God's really good at keeping his promises, us people, not so much.
Which is really fascinating to me because it's like a lot of the authors of these Hebrew Scriptures, because it's kind of like, hey, they're going to go describe God, they're just going to go back to what he said, right? It's like if you come tell me like, hey, tell me about your friend or whatever, right? Tell me about this person. Like they're just like, I'm going to actually go back to the source from the beginning instead of like making up a whole bunch of new stuff and random stuff off the top of my head. They just keep going back to, or like what I love about like the psalmists, like David and different stuff, they remind God, hey, remember you said this. This is what you said about yourself. So I'm banking on that because you said so. And again, to your point, Scott, you're faithful, you're good, you keep your word. So I'm just going to remind you, throw that out there. That's who you are, right? Okay, cool. We're good.
But that's it, like how it is with most relationships too. So when I am interacting with somebody, sometimes I can put my own filter and see the way they're doing something and think they are responding in a certain way because they're mad. And it's not that they're doing it because they're mad. There's just something going on. But I have that filter. So all of a sudden, I'm putting an attribute on that person. I know one of the things that's said about me often, I've got a bald head, right, and a beard. And so many times it's, man, he's just so intimidating. So if I'm not smiling, I look like I'm really mad or I'm upset. And the reality is I have to tell myself to remind myself to smile because I'm very rare am I actually really mad. I don't get that emotion. And so part of my bio is say, man, I love Jesus and I love people but how are my actions responding to that? So it's almost as though, like when you look at Scripture, you say, okay, here's God says he's this. Okay, where do we see that lining up? Does that match with who he is? Okay, yeah, it does. And it's almost like a good reminder. So, hey, Jason said that he actually loves people. Does the way he lives his life actually match up to that? So am I just reading it wrong right now and seeing like I'm putting an attribute on him that maybe isn't accurate, but also I need to smile.
Yeah.
So
Who's out there that's bald and a beard giving you guys a bad rep?
I don't know.
Like actors
Dude.
or
I don't, you think of
you-
intimidating like Stone
it
Cold
is.
Steve Austin. And
Yeah.
that dude.
Oh.
You think of like a
Yeah.
big bald dude's like
there's
like
something about it.
The Rock.
There
The
is.
Rock. Maybe
But
not
Who's
as
who's bald with a beard?
bald with a beard.
That's like mean.
That's mean.
Oh, that's-
I don't
that's
think most of us are teddy bears.
Dave,
We're very
the actor
lovely.
Dave Bautista played in the Marvel
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah. Does he have a beard?
Does he have a beard when he's not? I think so. I've seen
No.
him. Maybe
I don't know.
He looks intimidating.
Yeah.
I'd be scared of him.
Yeah,
Anyways,
I think something just happens. It's like, well, why do you shave your head? Like,
Yeah, why do you
I'm like-
why do you shave your head?
because I would look horrible if I didn't.
Okay.
I think.
Have we covered this? Did we talk about this when you were here
No.
before?
I feel
I
like
talked to
When's
somebody
the last
about it
time-
on Sunday who's
Oh.
asking me, when
When's
did you
the
start
last
losing
time?
your head? Losing your hair.
When's the last time you had like a full hair?
Actual hair? Probably 25,
Okay.
I
So
think.
it's been a minute.
It's been a while, yeah.
Okay.
I shaved my head coming out of high school just for fun as an intern. That was cool. And when I grew it back, I was a youth pastor at the time. And I thought it would be cool if I grew it out. And I have kind of wavy hair, so I was even like, we were straightening it in the morning. Sheena would straighten it for me right after we were married. Just kind of, I thought I was cool. And then I saw some pictures, and I said, "Wow,
that's terrible.
wow, it's like looks good all right on the side, but kind of up in this area, it's starting to thin out." And so I said, "It's time to shave it," and I never went back.
That's
Never went back.
Do you shave every day?
I
Or
do-
can you go
I
a
do
day?
now. I used to go about once a week.
Okay.
And now I'm doing it daily.
Really?
Wow.
What's your technique on it? Do you have like an electric one, like a palm
yeah, you're really
one?
going into this.
I'm curious.
I do use a skull razor up until about 2 weeks ago, and I started doing straight again.
You went back.
So this morning, it's actually it's a little bit of growth, but earlier this morning, yeah, it's
that's funny.
bicking it.
How long does that take you?
I mean, longer than doing your hair.
5
for
minutes?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, I spent about 15
I mean, you're
seconds.
lathering everything up, and you're just going at it. And,
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you nick yourself ever?
Oh yeah.
You get
yeah.
the bleeders?
Look, see a little mark right here. I don't know where it's at, but
Yeah, somewhere on there.
yeah, for about 2 or 3 days, I had to use that palm razor because I couldn't. I
Too
kept nicking
sensitive.
it, and it was bleeding everywhere.
Wow.
I'm curious about the process.
You're welcome. You're
Yeah.
welcome.
All right. Now we know about that. Let's jump into the second thing that God says in the list, gracious. He's gracious. Or favor or grace. Question for us all. Just in this last week, when have you experienced, maybe even on a surprise level, just some favor of God, blessing of God, what we would say is grace of God? Kyle, you're the expert on this week. While we're simmering on that, why don't you hit us with, what does that even mean? Because when we say grace, that's a very common word.
Yep.
Outside of people who are Jesus followers or believe in God. They would associate it with God probably, but it probably for all of us has like, doesn't it mean this, this, and this?
Yep.
What was God saying when he said that?
Yeah, so gracious is the word that God chooses to use. Chanun is the Hebrew word.
I feel like you need a little more.
Chanun, from the Hebrew word chen,
Well, there you
the
go.
grace word. Which, again, it gets convoluted and gets complicated, but it makes sense even still in English language. It's helpful. We use words like graceful, right, to describe something that's full of grace, that's favorable to experience, right? Like a graceful poet or a dancer.
When I go ice
When
skating,
you go ice skating, it's very graceful, right? We even like sometimes use it in something that's not as like poetic, but even like the graceful movements, even of like an athlete. Like, oh man, the way they do that is so graceful. They make it look easy.
yeah,
It's-
ice skating again.
Yeah, Scott's ice skating. The Olympics
There's-
coming up, right?
There's usually not in front of that graceful word for me, but
Yeah, not great. You didn't look so. But what we're trying to communicate there, whether we realize it or not, is that thing was pleasurable to watch, participate in. It was full of grace. I found favor on it when looking. So this. But the word grace specifically means that we respond with that favor. So when we give acts of grace, what we're doing is responding with delight or favor to that thing. And so that was a graceful experience for me. You found grace in my eyes is a very common biblical phrase. May I find grace in your eyes, which means may you look on me. May I have the gift of you looking on me with delight or favor. On Sunday, I used the example of Esther. You might be familiar with the story of Esther, who, as a Jewish woman, her people group was basically they were going to kill everybody, and there was a kind of a plot against them. Kind of long story short, Esther wins this like beauty pageant weird thing to be like the queen. It's like Cinderella-esque weird. So she gets to have favor with the king. So he looks on her with favor. She's beautiful, the scriptures tell us, and the king enjoys being around her, being with her. He delights in her. So she asks for this favor. Hey, would you please grant me grace by not killing these people? Would you give me a gift? And the scriptures tell us because he looked on her with delight, he granted her gift, her favor, gave her grace.
Yeah, there's a large generosity associated with grace and the
Yeah.
the graciousness. But the tricky part, the tension is, well, in that story, maybe she deserved it. She won the beauty pageant. She had favor. She was maybe kind and compassionate, and is like, okay, because you're so nice, I'll do a favor for the people.
Or just in this case, just because you're beautiful.
Because you're beautiful, and I want to keep you happy.
So he felt like she was deserving, and that's again typically what we understand as this idea of grace in our culture, even and specifically, that's kind of the baseline understanding of grace. What's uniquely biblical and uniquely into the characteristic of God is to treat people with that same delight and favor who not only might not deserve it, but definitely don't deserve it, who are not even close to deserving. So people you would look at and go, that's not graceful, right? For Scott, the ice skater Scott, to go, oh yeah, no, you were doing great right now, right? That's like to see Scott skating around and then be like, I'm going to give you a brand new pair of ice skates because you're so good at this. That would be like the biblical example of grace.
Pretty solid, actually. So.
I was just going with your metaphor, right? But that's what's this level up, uniquely biblical, uniquely godly characteristics that doesn't make sense. It didn't make sense in the first century. It didn't make sense in the ancient world. You know, most cultures were built on, hey, you don't do good for people who can't repay you. You don't carry debt because that's just dumb. Like, why would you carry debt for people who couldn't pay you back or, you know, might wrong you in the future? So all of these things, you don't do good to people who can't or won't do good back to you or repay you. In an honor-shame culture, there's all these layers to that. So when God comes in on the scene and says, you don't deserve favor, you don't deserve a right relationship with me, you don't deserve for the covenant relationship, God, to love you, care about you, reestablish a relationship with you after you broke the rules, that's this like level up of grace that's uniquely biblical, uniquely godly, and his call to us as his followers.
And that's been from the get-go. It's God's character beginning to end. It's with Adam and Eve. They screwed up and like, what do they deserve? Well, they get, there's some penalties for the sin as far as how life works, but there's also the favor of God in He cares for them, provides for them. Like the Bible's not explicitly clear, but like there's some animal sacrifices and there's some clothing made for them. Like that's God's doing. So it's that tricky tension of like, yeah, those people deserve it, those people don't. Like this last week, one of the unexpected things that we all were able to participate in was I got hit up with somebody about a week ago who was like, hey, I got 80 pairs of shoes. Do you think we could bless some people with it? And my first response was yes. Yeah. And then the second was, let me figure out a plan on that because it's not 8 pairs of shoes. Like, that's awesome. Kind of overwhelming. And then we talked about it. I was like, it works perfectly for the message of favor and blessing and grace. And it's something we've planned months ago with the messaging. And the person who gave it, James is his name, James was like, did you guys just, like, this worked out, like, this week? And, yeah, dude, that's how God works, where He's just orchestrating some things. But it was interesting to see people's response when I gave somebody a pair who, quote-unquote, didn't need it, didn't deserve it, which just, like, if you would be blessed by this, take it and be able to communicate to that person who's, I don't know, spiritually unresolved, let's say.
Very PC way.
I appreciate I don't know where he's at exactly in his heart.
That's good.
But just always trying to share Jesus with him. We talk openly about, anyways, we won't get into the story there. But just as a way to go, hey, will you be blessed by this? And gave him a pair. And he was like, what? Wait, hi, what was it? Because he was over at my house. He literally saw him in the garage, like all 80 pairs, because I had him for a couple of days. And he just is like, what's happening? Like somebody just, the favor of God, like the blessing of God. And so if you be blessed by a pair, you can take one and just receive a gift. Deserving or not deserving is not the question. It's just the gift giver wants to give a gift.
Yeah. I would push back there a little bit with the phrasing in there because deserving, undeserving is the point because it's all undeserved, right? Like That's where we hierarchy.
Perception
again,
of-
my
yeah.
perception of I have enough money to buy my own shoes. Like I'm doing
Right.
fine, but Susie down the street, I know her situation. She deserves it more, and I don't. And that's
Right.
what you're getting to on Sunday morning because we put it out there. We had 80 pairs of shoes, and we said, hey, if you could take these and bless somebody with it, do it. If it's a blessing for you, take it. And so the people that you interacted with a little bit more than I did, going, no, this feels weird.
I feel bad.
Again, I have
Yeah.
money in my checking account. I
Yeah.
could probably go buy a pair of shoes. I mean, these shoes were nice. They were pretty spendy. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't normally spend over $100 on shoes in any shoes I own. And so it's like, whoa, you know, like I could go down to Payless or I could go to Nordstrom Rack and buy a $50, $60, $70 pair of shoes. So I don't feel like I deserve it. Why don't we give it to someone who's quote unquote more
deserving.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where, again, to cut it down even further, grace, the way I summed it up on Sunday is undeserved, generous favor.
Yeah.
And so, again, to your point, to this guy, the guy you give him to who's making six figures and has great income versus the high school that we donated him to with kids on the track team who might not know where their next meal comes from. I know we like to.
We all
Right.
like to do that.
Right.
We're all undeserved of it, right? He didn't deserve more than they deserved them. It's all
Right.
undeserved, generous favor.
Yeah, and I get a lot of people's heart is coming from a need, like
Yep.
who
Who
legit
needs
needs
it
it,
more.
and we try to rank that in the generosity category. We really go, we can't. I'm overstating, so let me back up. Most of us, most of the time, go, who's the person in the most need? Because we don't want to give, and we rank it from our perspective, our vantage point. Who's the most needy? Let's give to them first, and because I'll feel better about it.
Oh,
or
100%.
and it legit meets a greater need in our community, in their life, than this person. It's a tricky thing. We talk about grace.
Yeah.
So have you guys experienced any sort of like surprising, fun? It doesn't have to be life-changing moment of grace in this last week or so where you just go, oh, that's the favor, blessing, grace of God. Who am I? How have you guys seen?
Oh yeah,
grace?
100%. My wife and I are in the middle of moving. We're buying a house and selling a house, and if you've ever done this, which a lot of people have in their adult life, it is so stinking stressful, just stupid, and the amount of dumb stuff that how many papers you have to sign and stuff you have to pretend like you know, and I'm like, I don't know what any of this is. We've just had so many amazing blessings in favor through the whole process. Right now, currently, both the house we're living in, we're selling, and the house we're moving to are under contract. We're just hitting stride after stride of stride, seeing God's faithfulness, getting asking price for a house, all this kind of stuff. I've had people just reach out. I have so many boxes in my house. Saturday morning, a friend of a friend showed up with 3 giant garbage sacks full of bubble tape, packing tape.
Oh,
and
that's like
and
that's
packing
like
paper.
gold.
Yeah, and a truck full of cardboard boxes.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
And that's greater
huge.
than if someone literally showed up with gold. You're like, I don't want to move that. It's real heavy.
That's too heavy.
Do you have some newspaper I can
Some
wrap dishes in?
boxes.
So it's just,
Yeah.
and so
And
seeing
the email you got from the person in the financial world that just was like an encouraging email.
Yeah, the Janet Schmidt is the best
Oh,
financial.
call out.
She is gold. She's just been helping us through.
Unpaid ad here
Yeah,
for
for DHI Mortgage. If you're buying a DR Horton house, go with them. If you're not, check out her. Her rates are great. She's just been so helpful. The first time I sat down with her to talk about, again, rates and finance stuff, I ended up talking to her for 45 minutes, an hour, just about Jesus. And I was like, this is awesome. So she's been helping me through the whole process. Yeah, and halfway through, we're emailing back and forth about today's rates and, fee sheets. And she just sends me this beautiful email that's just like, hey, can I just encourage you? God's got you. Like, this is stressful, but if you follow in the Lord, He's going to either close doors or open doors. And I, forward it to my wife. She's like, I'm not crying, you're crying. 'Cause it's like in the middle of all this junk, it's just like, God's got us.
and with a little unexpected, you're going back and forth about technical stuff, financial, like 0.07% things, and it's just in that kind of
Buying
realm,
down,
and you get
yeah.
this surprise gift of generosity, of care and emotional, spiritual support.
Yep.
Yeah,
So all
super
sorts of
fun.
stuff in the house buying process. It's just seeing God's fingerprints all over it and in His favor. And just from the very beginning, we just said we're going to trust God. We want our new house to be a place that we can glorify and honor and bless God. And so whatever that looks like for our family and for our friends. And so, yeah, left and right.
Jason, what about you?
All right. So this may
This is not
as-
comparison story time.
This feels
either.
like comparison.
No,
now.
no, we
Shoot.
don't
No.
compare at all.
So we are I don't know how this happened a few years ago, became a soccer family, and wasn't planned, but it happened. And we got really close to our club that we were part of in Renton when we lived there. And so we were in the middle of a season with our kids were super involved with soccer. When we moved to Spokane and found ourselves here and starting a new life, and there's a lot of cool things that Jesus did along the way to make that happen and answered prayers to make it happen. But then we found ourselves, hey, we're still disengaged a little bit from that sports part, and we could just see, like, for our kids that was a thing that was missing. So for my son, we decided we'd check out some different clubs. Well, we found this one that we just started, reached out to the coach, and he said, yeah, why don't you guys just come and do a training once or twice with us, just check and see how it's going. So we did that. And then this last couple of weeks, he continued to reach out and just say, hey, you know what? If you want to keep coming to as many trainings as you want until tryouts, which are in a few months, that's totally fine. Keep coming. And so we're like, oh, okay, cool. We're looking around, and I'm the kind of guy where I feel bad because I know that all the other parents that are here, all the other kids have paid a lot of money to be a part of this team, and they're making sacrifices to do it, and we just kind of show up, and we're just here, and we're just going through practices. So then I talked to the coach this last week, and he goes as far as to say, man, it's kind of up to you. If you just want to keep doing practices, that's great. If you guys want to join, I mean, we could probably just sign some paperwork and just do it and just join the team for the next couple of months and then go into training. I was like, well, is that even okay? Like, we didn't go through the tryouts originally for last season. We didn't pay any money for this yet. What do we do with that? So I emailed the club, and yesterday I'm getting an email back. Yeah, if you guys want to do that, we'll just sign some papers and just to make sure the coach is okay with it. And then I've got a loaner kit. You can't buy any kits right now, but we've got a loaner kit you can use for the next couple of months if you guys want it and join the team and then do tryouts and figure it out. And so for me, though, my pushback is like, I want to respond to an email like that and be like, how much do I owe you? Right? Like, how do I, like, okay, is this prorated? Is this a rental fee? Is there, because in my mind, we don't deserve it. We can afford it. We can do that. And so I try to push back and realize, no, this is just a way of, you're invited into community. And the parents that we've talked with and the managers that are there, there's no judgment. It's just like, yeah, you guys want to be part of the team? We'd love to have you. Like, we love having Jack out here. And so that for me this last week has been, or even the last couple of weeks, has been really cool to see that, I mean, this is not a faith community. I would venture to say most of that team do not participate in a faith community or a faith with Jesus Christ. But they are so accepting and really modeling what that could look like. And so that's been really cool. And then, I mean, there's other shout-outs for our community group that I want to talk about here a little later. So
Sure.
Yeah.
How about you, Scott? Any grace and favor?
Well, the shoe thing was definitely something to,
Yeah.
like, on a personal level, and then just to be helpful, a conduit for just being able to set up some tables, throw them out. Like, that's all we did.
Right.
And just make them available and help and see people. Some people grabbed them and go, one lady grabbed 4 pair and go, can I take 4? Because I got a direct, recipients. It's like, yeah, absolutely. And other people like, I feel bad. No, you don't have to feel bad. You can just take the free gift. Yeah. The last, 6 months of our lives, just walking through a few different hard things, and just honestly experiencing the generosity of God through people in large ways, emotionally, spiritually, monetarily, and just in so many different ways where it's overwhelming. And getting to a place, it's that confluence of like, yeah, I'm there, not there,
right,
but I am, I'm on the way, where am I? But getting to a place and trying to be really in moments to just say thank you and receive it as a gift. Because Jason, I echo that. I feel
so
that.
hard.
Let me pay for it. Let me
me.
do, how can I? And it's just, that's not graciousness. That's like a transactional action of, I pay for a service and you provide. So just being able to receive that. Even this morning, someone stopped by and was just sharing. They were on a trip and talking to a family member, an uncle in California, and he was curious about faith, and he's Catholic and just curious about their faith and what does your church believe? So they pulled something up, like a message popped up, and so they watched a few minutes of the message together, and they were like, the uncle was like, this guy just talks like a real person, and liked it, and maybe he'll be curious more about. And they were super jacked, like he was more interested in who Jesus is. So they were sharing that. And so instead of like, oh, it's not me and deflecting in certain unhealthy ways, just say thank you. and let God do his work through us. I think sometimes for me, we pray the prayer like, God, just help me get out of the way. I get that to a certain degree, the sentiment, but God's chosen to like work through us and to not diminish what the Holy Spirit is doing in us and understand in humility, it's not about me, but God's using us. I was going to read this verse because it helps with all of this, I think, for me, is Ephesians 2:8-9. God saved you by his grace when you believed, and you can't take credit for this. It's a gift from God. Yeah. Just say thank you. Just receive it, right? Salvation is not a reward for the good things we have done, so none of us can boast about it. For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus so we can do the good things he planned for us long ago. And I think of the life of Jesus all over the place. He would show up, and he would just hand out blessing and favor to everybody. Like, we don't have the stories, but when he showed up and he healed all the diseases of all the people, all the sicknesses.
Right.
Well, can we dissect? Are you deserving, not deserving? Like, and make it about them versus it's about the character of God. He's just gracious.
Yeah. And I like how like one of the things we've talked about was what can you do for others out of this? It's almost like being that conduit of God's grace. So when you see Jesus doing these amazing things throughout the New Testament, he then tells the disciples, go and do likewise, right? Take what I've done and go and do this. Go extend grace. And I think that's the part that can be hard even for accepting of grace. So like when we're seeing the shoes go, a couple people who took them, not needing them, but accepted the grace of this free gift, and in turn we're thinking, who can I also give this to? And I think that's a point of maturity, because like realizing like, okay, I accept what you're giving me, and I'm also going to find ways to bless people and have that be a part of my lifestyle. Is not just it's understanding how to accept the grace of God in our life, but then how do we extend that to others? And so that became a topic of our conversation at our community group on Sunday night. Okay. It was huge, like the whole idea of like who's deserving, who's not deserving. Because here's the deal, I think I'm pretty much deserving of God's grace in my life, but other people's sin, it's a little worse than mine. There's some who maybe seem holier, but then there's others that, man, I just don't know that. How does God really forgive them? And we put a scale, and somehow we kind of find ourselves in that. Yeah, I mean, God is definitely going to save me. I mean, right.
But the favor of God through a soccer club, you're like,
I know, isn't that weird?
Right?
Isn't that weird?
Because I feel the same thing.
Yeah. The actual just like tangible, well, not everything's tangible, but I mean just like the difference of like this idea of a gracious God. I'm like, okay, but through people, I don't know. But we had that conversation, so we sat around and we had a few that were just like, man, with the experiences I've had in life, it's really hard to pray for people and truly believe that I want God to do a work in their life because of how they've treated me, how they've hurt me. I don't think they deserve grace, but we know that God loves people and doesn't put a limit on where his grace is at and genuinely cares about them. And so, yeah.
I've been meditating on the Beatitudes, if you will, the teachings of Jesus recorded in Matthew 5, and just I have found a renewed and deeper sense of just what it means for God to bless us. And the Bible Project uses, Tim, I think, probably came up with it, if I'm correct, at the Bible Project, just the good life instead of the blessing. But like the good life belongs to these type of people, and it's in the second line of the Beatitudes where it's not the grief, it's you'll receive the comfort, is the blessing, the good life. And so I've even just found myself practically just telling people, God bless you. Not when they're sneezing, which I've always been.
My daughter tells me God bless you when I sneeze now. Or just bless you.
Right? So that's a cultural thing, and I'm always like, cynical about that. But for me, it's got a newer, deeper sense of, would you experience the good life, the favor, the blessing of God? And it's been because of me focusing on the character of God and less about, tell me about who you are. Do you deserve it? What have you done? Let me weigh it on some moral scales that Scott owns, and Scott can determine what's in hearts. And so getting past myself a little bit and focused in more on Jesus and just communicating to strangers and other people. It's like, I did that. I did that this morning with somebody. I don't know them. Just like, have a good day. God bless you. But
Blessings, brother.
more from a genuine spot in my heart than just a trite phrase that,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's what a pastor would say or a Jesus follower would say.
Yeah. Yeah, just to Jason's point, this just really stuck out to me in light of all of our conversation as you read Ephesians, and I think of the kind of the shoe example, right? And we think of our salvation. I love the way that's put. That's like, hey, so that none of us can boast. Like, I think back in the youth group days, right? And you talk about your testimonies and stuff like that, and then there's people who are like, oh, yeah, man, I was doing drugs and doing all this kind of stuff. And then so the kid's like, well, I don't have a cool story. I just, grew up in a Christian house and loved Jesus my whole life. I wish I was more like you who had a cool story, right? It's like, no, we're all undeserving of God's grace. Whether you were addicted to drugs and had this miraculous transformation, or you're like, yeah, I found Jesus when I was 3. And I've loved him.
The upsmanship of the story, you were bad, I was bad. I was
kids
worse.
camp's the best. It's like, how can we pray for you? It's like, my dog died. Oh, my fish died. Oh, my cat died.
My mom's dead.
Yeah.
Your mom died? I know your mom. I saw her this morning.
But yeah, just that. Hey, all of us are undeserving. Again, we like to compartmentalize it, and okay, that person's how good is good enough, and there's this scale, but we're all undeserving of this generosity from God, and we're all recipients of it, and so we all need to receive that.
No one is righteous, not even one.
Not even one.
Nobody's good.
Yeah.
When we're comparing ourselves to the character of God, who is worthy? Nobody. We're all unworthy servants who are grateful, hopefully, that we receive the gift of God, and to receive the gift is it's given. I have a hard time with gifts because I want to direct and determine who and how and what as a gift.
As a giver, you have
No, as a recipient. You know what I mean? I want to say, oh, that's too generous. Can you hold your gift back? So I want to direct your giving by saying too much, not enough, maybe later. Can you do it this way?
Yeah.
That's for you to give the gift as your, you know what I mean?
Yeah, just receive it.
It's part of my control issues.
Yeah, one of my control issues. So I think it's hard for me to receive gifts because I have to figure out what kind of emotion do I need to show from getting this gift. Do I need to come across overly excited and grateful and thankful? Because that's hard for me.
Is it part of how you feel like you're paying for the gift? Is the proper emotion response?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
I've been told did he like it? I'm well, I did. I just don't. I'm kind of that middle of the road kind of guy. I'm just I don't get super emotional one way or the other. But so I think for me, it probably comes back to the paying. What does this person expect? How am I gonna? And do I need it really? Do I so? Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
Right. I was simmering on this morning. It was just in my normal reading, Acts chapter 5. There's some crazy stuff's going on with the Spirit of God working through people, and the followers of Jesus were performing miraculous signs and wonders. It's right after this intense story of 2 people lying, and they got judgment. So that's a whole other thing. But the part I wanted to emphasize was, as a result, this is Acts 5:15. As a result, people brought the sick into the streets and laid them on beds and mats so that at least Peter's shadow might fall on some of them as he passed by. And there's another time, I don't know, somewhere Paul's handkerchiefs were going out, right? Which then the first thing for me is bad American TV evangelists that have jacked that system up and are, scamming people. So I got to get past.
Buy the prayer cloth. If you donate X amount of dollars, you
right?
get the
If
another
if you
envelope.
touch your screen right now and then send $29.95 every month, okay, simmer down.
Simmer down.
But as Jesus went through, a lady touched his garment. Now, are the garments magical? Is Peter's shadow magical in the handkerchief and Jesus? No, it's the power of God working through people. And as Peter passed by, all these people,
as Peter passed a peck of pickled peppers
on the Prince Street of, anyways, the shadow fell on people.
Yeah.
Why? So that God would be glorified. So that God's character of graciousness and favor and blessing on quote unquote deserving and undeserving, as we like to look at it, but all of us undeserving of the favor of God. God's bringing wholeness to people because that's who He is. He's a gracious God who is compassionate. We didn't talk about it much here, but those 2 words are descriptions of God really are paired together as you think about the generosity of God goes along with the compassion of God as He sees the injustice, the suffering, especially for the poor, the lame, the oppressed. That's highlighted through all of Jesus' ministry of who He talked to, the despised, the outcast, the less than, the women, the children. And so it's the compassion. I see you in your suffering.
Yep.
I see you in the injustice. I'm not going to stand by and do nothing. I'm going to take action, and I'm going to take very generous action.
That's good.
And so, but it's still crazy. Peter's shadow, what? But like, so that the attention would be not on Peter, because he goes, it's not me. It's God working through me. But that God would be glorified. But I don't know. It's cool.
Yeah.
I loved it. I was like, okay.
Okay.
What happened?
Yeah.
Can I get a video clip of that? Like, I just see like lame people line the streets, and all of a sudden they're popping up and dancing, and then you got this like flash mob going on down the street. Like, I don't know what's going on there, where the grace of God is visibly being seen in people's lives.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
All right, I don't know. Anything else? We're landing the plane here on this episode.
I don't know. I
Just
could keep going on your
the graciousness of God. Anything we haven't said, or
I mean, we're working through Mark chapter. Well, we're going through the book of Mark in our community group, and we hit Mark chapter 1 for the last couple of weeks and focused in on who Jesus was. And Mark really establishes at the beginning that Jesus is God. And like you see the Trinity happen, this idea of God the Father saying, "This is my Son," and the Holy Spirit coming down as a dove, and Jesus is getting baptized by John, and John the Baptist, who has been proclaiming this Messiah is going to come, says, "I'm not even worthy." The guy who's been baptizing people for their sin and for all this, he says, "I'm not worthy to even untie the sandals of this guy. I'm not." That's how much this Jesus means to him. And yet you see Jesus turn around in that same chapter. So Mark is like just the beginning of telling the Jesus, continues on and goes into who does Jesus call? And he calls out to guys who didn't make the cut, like they're fishermen. They're the ones that were out doing their vocation because they weren't able to follow another rabbi. And he seeks them out. And then he goes and the story is within verse, like even in 40, where it talks about he goes and he touches a man who is with leprosy, right? And you see Jesus doing again, all in chapter 1, you establish the authority of who Jesus is and how he is set apart, to the point that John the Baptist, who's this holy man, doesn't want to touch his feet because of like, I'm not worthy of that even. And yet here's the Son of Man, the Son of God, who goes out and he's healing people, touching those who are lepers, praying over sick women.
Touching the people nobody touches.
Nobody wants to touch.
Not even
right.
the poorest of
and
poor.
You see the story, like it hits that. And he talks about, he heals like a woman, like Simon's mom or like Peter's mom. And it's like, he went to the people that nobody, like, again, it's a different culture, different society, but it's very specific how Mark talks about this. And almost like these are the people that everybody thought doesn't deserve to be touched, to be interacted with, to be cared for. And Jesus, and it's almost like Mark makes a point like in this that, but Jesus did.
Yep.
Jesus is going to. And
I like that. I like that. I've never really thought about that dichotomy between John being in the humility and the to touch Jesus, but then Jesus touched. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But then right in that same chapter, it's almost like, hey, this happened, and also the next part of it is
I think
very
that's
next thing. This
really
is
helpful for us understanding again that scale of who's worthy, who's not worthy, who's deserving, who's not. Yeah. It's grace, and you know, John in his gospel, it's grace upon grace upon grace. Yeah. Grace, the creation of mankind in the garden was grace, and the Ten Commandments and the law and the Torah, excuse me, is all grace.
That was like a Hebrew 10 right there.
Right? It's all grace. All these interactions throughout the Hebrew scriptures, it's grace. The prophets, it's grace. You know, grace and grace and grace. Now we see Jesus, it's grace upon grace. It's just even more overflowing of God's graciousness to all of us who are undeserving. Mm-hmm. And when we receive that as a gift and then we reflect that back to the world around us, it's life-changing.
Yeah, because it begins to really help us focus in on who God is and less about us. If we find ourselves thinking about, am I deserving, not deserving, I don't get this, or others, we're so focused on us and people and our character and our worthiness. But, man, let's take a moment this week and as we go through our days, and let's turn our attention to who God is. He's a gracious God who's compassionate. And we'll jump into the other things as we go forward. But don't be surprised as God's favor and blessing and the good life shows up day by day in your life, and to receive that with the right amount of humility, but to receive it as a gift and not make it about us. And let's not make it about the people around us either. Let's let God work through us. We're blessed to be a blessing in all sorts of ways with the people around us. And so let's think about who God is, turn our attention to Him, take a deep dive in God's character. And as we do that, it'll change who we are and how we respond to the people around us. So have a good week following Jesus. We'll catch you on the next episode.